Have you ever judged someone before knowing their true identity? What if that person turned out to be someone you never expected? Can a single encounter completely change your perspective on a person? Imagine being caught off guard by someone you thought you knew, only to discover you were wrong. In today's video, we will share a gripping story that revolves around a shocking encounter between a racist woman and a black businessman. This isn't just a story about prejudice. It's a powerful reminder of how our assumptions can cloud our judgment and lead to unforeseen consequences. So, why should you watch until the end? Well, this tale will not only entertain you, but also challenge the way you see the world and the people in it. As we explore this story, we will uncover some important lessons. Have you ever considered how biases influence our everyday interactions? Did you know that studies show people often make snap judgments within seconds of meeting someone? This means that the first impression can linger, impacting future encounters. But what happens when that first impression is based on a stereotype or a misguided belief? Throughout this video, we'll highlight some lesser-known facts about workplace dynamics and biases. Did you know that a person's name alone can impact how they are perceived in professional settings? As we tell the story, think about how these factors play into your own life. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you misjudged someone? How did that make you feel? In this tale, you'll witness the twist that flips the narrative entirely. As the story unfolds, you'll learn about the transformative power of recognition and understanding. By the end, we aim to instill a deeper appreciation for the diverse backgrounds that shape our experiences. You will discover why it is crucial to look beyond our initial perceptions and to treat everyone with the respect they deserve. Join us as we dive into this remarkable encounter that highlights the importance of empathy and awareness. You might just find yourself rethinking your own interactions and judgments. Are you ready to see the world through a different lens? So, buckle up as we take you on this emotional journey filled with drama, insight, and ultimately, a lesson on the value of recognizing someone for who they truly are. Let's begin this journey together. Imagine walking into a bright, bustling office filled with people. The sound of keyboards clicking and phones ringing fills the air. Everyone is busy with their tasks, hustling to meet deadlines. This is where our story begins. The scene is vibrant, alive with energy, and yet hidden within it is a tension that few can see. In the corner of this modern office, we find Rachel. She is in her early 30s, with a sharp wardrobe that reflects her ambitious nature. Rachel has worked hard to climb the corporate ladder, and she wears her success like a badge of honor. But beneath her confident exterior lies a troubling flaw. She carries with her a set of biases that shape her worldview. She often judges people at first glance, believing that her accomplishments make her superior. On this particular day, Rachel is preparing for a meeting. She sits at her desk, scrolling through her phone. She laughs at a meme that mocks a public figure. Her laughter is loud and filled with a sense of superiority. Little does she know, the world she has created around herself is about to unravel. As she continues to scroll, a tall, well-dressed man enters the office. His name is Marcus. He's a black businessman known for his impressive track record in the industry. Marcus walks with confidence. His presence commands attention. He's not just another employee. He's a respected leader whose expertise has earned him recognition. Rachel notices him but doesn't think much of it. In her mind, he is just another person who doesn't fit into her narrow definition of success. As he walks past her desk, she snickers at his attire, believing he is trying too hard to impress. The irony of her laughter is that Marcus is not trying to impress anyone. He is simply being himself. The atmosphere in the office shifts slightly as he passes. Some employees nod in respect, while others whisper about his recent achievements. Rachel, however, remains blissfully unaware. She doesn't see the depth of Marcus's character or the hard work he has put into his career. Instead, she focuses on surface-level judgments, and this is where the drama begins to unfold. As the day progresses, a meeting is called, and all employees are expected to attend. Rachel strolls into the conference room, confidently taking her usual seat at the front. She glances around, and her eyes widen as she spots Marcus entering the room. Her stomach churns slightly, but she brushes it off. After all, she thinks, she is the one in charge. The room fills with chatter as people settle in. Marcus takes a seat at the head of the table, and Rachel can't help but roll her eyes. She whispers to a colleague about him, making an offhand remark that hints at her prejudices. She believes her words are harmless, but they hang in the air, thick with tension. The meeting begins, and Marcus starts presenting. He speaks clearly and confidently, sharing insights that resonate with the audience. The room listens intently as he discusses strategies and goals. Rachel's initial reaction of superiority begins to shift as she hears his words. Her laughter fades into silence as the realization sinks in. This man knows his stuff. But her bias refuses to let go. She watches, still looking for reasons to undermine him, a flicker of doubt crossing her mind. She thinks about her past experiences, her prejudices boiling beneath the surface. She recalls the moments when she judged others based on their appearances or backgrounds. Each thought brings her deeper into a web of her own making. As Marcus continues to speak, the tension in the room shifts. It's palpable, electric. Rachel begins to sweat slightly. Is this really happening? Here is a man she thought she could dismiss, proving to be far more capable than she imagined. Her biases are crumbling, but she's not ready to admit it yet. Instead, she steels herself, waiting for a moment to regain her footing, unaware of the dramatic twist about to unfold in this tightly woven tale. As Marcus presents his ideas, the room hangs on his every word. The once bustling office is now a sanctuary of focus and admiration. Rachel feels the shift, but she fights against it. She clings to her judgments, refusing to acknowledge the truth that stands before her. Suddenly, the atmosphere changes. A small, unexpected moment occurs. A technical glitch. The projector flickers, casting shadows across the conference room. People murmur in confusion. Rachel's heart races, not out of concern for the presentation, but because she sees a chance to regain control. She leans over to her colleague and whispers, "Looks like even the tech is trying to save us from this." The comment, laced with sarcasm, escapes her lips before she can think. But then, something remarkable happens. Marcus, with a calm demeanor, approaches the issue. He smiles and gestures to the tech team in the back of the room. "Let's take a moment to fix this," he says, his voice steady and reassuring. His presence brings a wave of relief over the room. The tension eases as he engages the audience with humor. "I guess technology is just as nervous as I am." Laughter ripples through the crowd, breaking the ice further. Rachel sits back, a frown creasing her forehead. She watches as Marcus transforms a minor hiccup into a moment of connection. She feels threatened by his ease, his ability to turn a potential disaster into a triumph. The admiration in the room grows. More people are leaning forward, eager to hear him speak. Each nod and smile from her colleagues digs deeper into her discomfort. As the projector returns to life, Marcus continues with his presentation, weaving personal anecdotes into his professional insights. He shares stories of challenges he faced in his career, how he overcame prejudice, and the importance of perseverance. The room is captivated. Rachel is no longer in the front seat. She feels pushed to the back, overshadowed by Marcus's authenticity and relatability. Then a pivotal moment occurs. A young intern, who had been quiet throughout the meeting, raises her hand. "Can you tell us more about how you dealt with the challenges you faced?" she asks, her voice shaking slightly. The room falls silent, all eyes now on Marcus. He pauses for a moment, then leans into the question. "Sure," he begins, his tone sincere. "There was a time when I felt like I didn't belong, especially in this industry. I was often the only person of color in the room. It was tough." He continues, detailing how he navigated the murky waters of discrimination and bias. His honesty resonates with everyone, including Rachel, who sits enraptured despite herself. As he speaks, Rachel feels a mixture of admiration and envy. The man she dismissed just moments ago is now an inspiration to many. Why couldn't she see this before? She fights the urge to reassess her perceptions, struggling against the internal battle raging within her. Her prejudice has been so deeply ingrained that admitting her error feels impossible. Then, as Marcus shares a particularly emotional story about a mentor who believed in him when no one else did, Rachel feels something shift inside her. She sees flashes of herself in his narrative. The moments when she too felt underestimated. The times when she wished for someone to believe in her. Suddenly, the walls she built around her biases begin to crack. The self-protective armor she wore starts to loosen. Yet, Rachel's instinct to protect her status lingers. As Marcus finishes his story, the room erupts in applause. People are standing, their appreciation for him spilling over. Rachel claps too, but it feels mechanical. Inside, a storm brews, a mix of jealousy and realization. In this pivotal moment, the line between admiration and resentment blurs. She is confronted with a choice: to continue clinging to her biases or to embrace the lesson unfolding right before her. As the applause fades, Rachel feels her heart race. This isn't just about Marcus anymore. It's about her too. She can either remain entrenched in her beliefs or take a step toward understanding. The tension thickens as the meeting wraps up. Marcus, humble and gracious, thanks everyone for their time. He makes eye contact with Rachel as he walks past her, a subtle acknowledgement of the storm brewing within her. This brief moment feels charged, full of unspoken words. In that glance, Rachel realizes that everything she thought she knew is about to be turned upside down. But will she take the leap into understanding, or will her biases hold her captive? The stage is set for a transformation, and the outcome remains uncertain. As the room begins to clear, the air crackles with potential, leaving Rachel in a state of turmoil and introspection. As the meeting concludes, an air of excitement buzzes in the room. Colleagues exchange glances, their admiration for Marcus palpable. Rachel, however, sits in her chair, her mind racing. Her internal struggle has intensified. Should she confront her biases or ignore the undeniable shift in her perception? Just then, the office manager, a friendly woman named Lisa, steps up to the front. She announces, "Before we wrap up, I have an important update for everyone." The room quiets as curiosity fills the air. Lisa glances around the room, her gaze settling on Marcus. "I am thrilled to announce that our company is welcoming a new executive to the team," she continues. "Marcus here will be taking on the role of our new vice president." The room erupts into applause. Rachel's heart sinks. The man she had dismissed, the one she had laughed at just hours ago, is now in a position of power, her boss. The news hits her like a tidal wave, overwhelming and unstoppable. She feels a mix of emotions: disbelief, anger, and an uncomfortable feeling of shame. Marcus stands up again, his humility shining through. "Thank you all for your warm welcome," he says, a smile spreading across his face. "I'm looking forward to working with each of you. Together, I believe we can achieve great things." His sincerity touches the hearts of everyone present. The energy in the room shifts, transforming into one of hope and excitement. Rachel, however, feels trapped in her thoughts. How could she have misjudged him so completely? Her mind races back to her previous comments, the snickers and laughter that escaped her lips. She feels the weight of her actions pressing down on her. The embarrassment is almost suffocating. As the applause continues, Rachel's face flushes. She realizes that her perception of Marcus has changed, but now it's too late to take back her words. The crowd disperses, and Rachel finds herself stuck in her chair, frozen in place. Her colleagues congratulate Marcus, sharing their enthusiasm and extending their hands for a shake. Rachel watches, feeling like an outsider in her own world. The reality of her prejudice becomes glaringly clear. She had allowed her biases to cloud her judgment, and now, the consequences were unfolding right before her eyes. Finally, Marcus begins to make his way toward Rachel. The tension in her chest tightens, As he approaches, she can see the glint of confidence in his eyes, a stark contrast to her own inner turmoil. "Hi, Rachel," he says warmly, extending his hand. "I'm looking forward to working with you. I hear you have a lot of great ideas." His words are kind, but Rachel feels her throat tighten. She hesitates, the words she wants to say caught in her throat. Yeah, she stammers, forcing a smile that feels more like a grimace. "Congratulations." Marcus nods, unaware of the storm brewing within her. "Thanks. I hope we can collaborate on some projects." As he turns to talk to other colleagues, Rachel is left standing there, grappling with her emotions. A sense of dread fills the air around her. She realizes she must confront her biases, not just to redeem herself, but also to grow as a person. Yet the fear of admitting her mistakes looms large. She wants to hide from the truth, to retreat into her safe space where her judgments felt justified. But the image of Marcus standing there, friendly and confident, forces her to reconsider. She recalls his stories during the presentation, his journey, his struggles, and the way he spoke about overcoming obstacles. Each memory is like a blade cutting through her defenses, urging her to open up. As the day goes on, Rachel finds it harder to concentrate on her work. Her mind drifts back to the meeting, to Marcus, and to the realization that she was wrong about him. Every glance at him across the office serves as a reminder of her bias. The laughter she once shared with her colleagues feels hollow now. Later that afternoon, Rachel stands by the coffee machine, the clatter of cups and the murmur of conversations filling the air. Marcus walks in, and their eyes meet. For a moment, everything else fades away. She feels an urge to say something, to apologize, to explain. But the fear of rejection grips her. Instead of approaching him, she watches as he pours a cup of coffee and chats with another coworker. Each moment feels like an eternity. The unease in her chest grows heavier. What would she even say? The thought of confessing her prejudices sends her heart racing. Marcus laughs, his voice echoing in her ears, and Rachel realizes that she is at a crossroads. Will she take the step to confront her bias and face the man she judged so harshly? Or will she retreat back into her comfort zone, allowing the moment to slip away? As the scene unfolds, the tension in the office mirrors Rachel's internal struggle. The stakes have never been higher. She knows that her next move could define not only her relationship with Marcus, but also her journey toward growth and understanding. The air is thick with suspense, and the decision looms larger than ever. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow through the large windows of the office, Rachel felt the weight of her earlier actions bearing down on her. The casual banter among her colleagues felt distant, almost foreign, while her mind was in turmoil. The moment Marcus had been announced as the new vice president still replayed vividly in her thoughts, igniting a whirlwind of emotions. Each laugh and cheer from her coworkers echoed in her ears, reminding her of the laughter she had shared at his expense, now twisted into a painful knot in her stomach. Every time she caught a glimpse of Marcus, working confidently at his desk, she felt an intense urge to approach him, to apologize. But the fear of rejection held her back like a heavy chain. What if he laughed at her, just like she had laughed at him? What if he had already shared her past comments with others? The thought made her stomach churn. Rachel took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. The office was buzzing with excitement over the new leadership, but she felt like an outsider looking in. As colleagues gathered in small groups, sharing ideas and visions for the future, Rachel stood isolated, her mind racing with doubts and insecurities. Each time she picked up her pen to write, her thoughts drifted back to Marcus and her earlier judgment. Finally, unable to bear the weight of her guilt any longer, Rachel decided to take a break. She stepped outside to the small balcony that overlooked the city. The cool evening air hit her like a splash of cold water. And for a moment, it cleared her mind. She could see the city lights beginning to twinkle, each one representing lives and stories, much like her own. In that quiet moment, she reflected on her past and the prejudices that had shaped her. She thought of how easy it had been to make snap judgments based on appearances and first impressions. A chill ran down her spine as she remembered how Marcus had shared his story of resilience. He had faced challenges that Rachel could hardly imagine, and yet she had allowed her biases to cloud her view. How could she have been so blind? With a renewed sense of determination, Rachel made her way back inside. She decided she had to confront her feelings, not only for her own growth, but also to foster a better working relationship with Marcus. As she walked back to her desk, her heart raced with anticipation. Would she be able to find the words? As the day continued, the tension in the office seemed to ease, but Rachel's mind was still in overdrive. She heard snippets of conversations about upcoming projects and visions for the company. Everyone seemed to rally around Marcus, embracing his leadership with enthusiasm. Each word felt like a dagger, reminding her of the distance she had put between herself and her colleagues. She gathered her courage and approached Lisa, the office manager, who was chatting with some coworkers. "Hey Lisa, do you know where Marcus is?" Rachel asked, trying to sound casual, though her heart was pounding. Lisa turned, a warm smile on her face. "Oh, he's in the conference room, preparing for tomorrow's meeting." "Why? Are you going to talk to him?" Rachel hesitated, feeling the weight of her shame, but she nodded. "Yeah, I think I need to." "Good for you, Rachel." Lisa encouraged her, and with that, Rachel steeled herself and headed toward the conference room. As she approached the door, she could hear Marcus's voice, animated and full of passion. It gave her pause. What if he was still angry about what she had said? But then she thought of the brave person he was, overcoming the ridicule and judgment to become a leader. Taking a deep breath, Rachel pushed the door open. The moment she stepped inside, Marcus looked up from his notes, his expression shifting from focus to surprise. "Rachel, hey, what's up?" He greeted her with a genuine smile. Suddenly, all the words she had rehearsed in her mind evaporated. "Oh, hi." She stammered, the gravity of the moment hitting her hard. Marcus's friendly demeanor made her heart race. "You okay? You look a bit pale," he noted, his brow furrowing in concern. Rachel swallowed hard. "I wanted to talk to you about earlier. I'm really sorry for how I reacted during your presentation." His expression softened. "You mean when we were all joking? Don't worry about it. We were just having some fun." But Rachel pressed on, her voice trembling. "No, I mean it. I let my biases get in the way. I shouldn't have laughed at you. I had no idea who you were or what you've accomplished." Marcus nodded slowly, his eyes searching hers. "I appreciate you saying that. It takes a lot to admit when we're wrong." The sincerity in his voice gave Rachel a glimmer of hope. "I just want you to know that I respect you and your journey. I hope we can start over. I'd really like to work together and learn from you." A smile broke across Marcus's face, warm and genuine. "Of course, Rachel. Everyone has their moments. What matters is how we move forward." As they spoke, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The tension that had once filled Rachel's heart began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of camaraderie. They talked about the projects ahead, and Rachel felt the weight of her prejudice lift, replaced by a newfound respect. But just as things seemed to settle, a loud voice echoed from the hallway. "Hey, Marcus, you ready for the meeting?" It was Jack, one of Rachel's colleagues who had often joined in the laughter at Marcus's expense. Rachel's heart dropped. She could feel the unease creeping back in. Jack burst into the conference room, and his jovial demeanor dimmed when he saw Rachel sitting with Marcus. "Oh, sorry, didn't know you were busy," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "I hope you're not asking for tips on how to be a boss." Marcus glanced at Rachel, a flash of concern in his eyes. She felt her face flush with embarrassment. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, Marcus cut in. "Actually, we were just discussing some project ideas. You might want to hear them too." Rachel was surprised by his response. Instead of letting Jack's comment slide, Marcus had taken the high road, inviting Jack into their conversation. She felt a rush of admiration for him. It was a powerful reminder that true leadership meant lifting others up, not tearing them down. As the three of them continued the discussion, Rachel realized she was no longer just an observer. She was part of a team now, and she had the opportunity to contribute positively. The past was behind her, and as they delved deeper into the projects, she felt a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced before. Marcus's confidence shone through as he shared his vision, and Rachel found herself inspired. They exchanged ideas, and for the first time, Rachel felt seen, not for her past mistakes, but for her potential. The respect she had for Marcus grew stronger, and she understood that he was more than just her boss. He was a leader who cared about his team. The conversation flowed effortlessly, with Jack caught off guard by Marcus's confidence and Rachel's newfound enthusiasm. The dynamics shifted, and Rachel felt the warmth of acceptance enveloping her. She realized that the walls she had built around herself were coming down. In that moment, Rachel knew that her journey was just beginning. The encounter that had once filled her with shame now fueled her desire to grow and learn. The suspense of how this would unfold hung in the air, but for the first time in a long while, Rachel felt hope. The transformation was palpable. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the conference table. The office buzzed with potential, and Rachel understood that she had the chance to redefine her narrative. Marcus's journey mirrored her own. It was one of resilience, understanding, and ultimately, growth. As they continued their discussion, Rachel felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead was filled with challenges, but she was ready to face them. With each word exchanged, the bond between her and Marcus strengthened, a testament to the power of humility, understanding, and the will to change. Days turned into weeks, and Rachel found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. Each morning as she walked into the office, she faced the weight of her past actions. The laughter from her colleagues still echoed in her mind, but now it felt like a ghost haunting her. Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that her earlier judgment of Marcus had not only hurt him, but also cast a shadow over her own reputation. It wasn't just about a fleeting moment of laughter. It was about the perception others had of her. She often overheard snippets of conversations in the break room, whispers about how Rachel always seemed to know what was best, or Rachel had a way of getting things done. But underneath the surface, she felt a crack forming. How could she maintain her image as a competent team member when she had so blatantly judged someone else? As Rachel navigated her daily tasks, she began to notice the subtle changes in the way her colleagues treated her. Conversations felt more distant, and laughter was often muted when she entered the room. The casual camaraderie she had once shared with her peers seemed to have dissipated, replaced by an invisible wall that she could feel but not see. One afternoon, while working on a presentation, Rachel was interrupted by a light knock on her door. It was Marcus, standing there with his usual warm smile. But this time, there was a hint of concern in his eyes. "Hey, Rachel, do you have a minute?" Rachel's heart raced. Would he confront her about the past? Would he ask her to explain herself? But instead, he continued, "I've noticed you seem a bit off lately. Is everything okay?" Taken aback, Rachel felt a rush of emotion. It was one thing for her to acknowledge her guilt, but having Marcus, the very person she had wronged, show concern for her well-being felt surreal. I've just been thinking a lot about how I treated you," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean to be so judgmental. I let my biases cloud my judgment." Marcus nodded slowly, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot. But I want you to know that we all have our moments. It's part of being human." His words struck a chord with Rachel, and for the first time, she felt a flicker of hope. But then, that hope was swiftly overshadowed by the reality of her situation. Even as Marcus reached out with kindness, she couldn't escape the feeling that her past actions had irrevocably changed her standing within the team. As the days continued to roll by, the sense of isolation grew heavier. Rachel watched as Marcus seamlessly engaged with the team, earning their trust and respect, while she found herself increasingly sidelined. Colleagues would often approach him for advice, gathering around his desk, laughing and exchanging ideas, while Rachel felt like an outsider, standing in the shadows of their camaraderie. One afternoon, during a team meeting, the atmosphere turned electric. Marcus unveiled an ambitious project aimed at revitalizing the company's brand. As he laid out his vision, the room erupted in applause, everyone eager to support his ideas. Rachel felt a knot in her stomach, a mixture of admiration for Marcus and frustration at her own inability to contribute meaningfully. As the applause faded, Marcus called for input. "I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts. What do you think?" His gaze swept across the room, landing on Rachel for just a moment. It was as if he was reaching out to her, inviting her back into the fold. But the weight of judgment hung heavily over her, and she remained silent, the words caught in her throat. After the meeting, as colleagues gathered around Marcus to discuss the project, Rachel slipped out of the room, feeling defeated. She made her way to the break room, where the coffee machine hummed softly. As she poured herself a cup, she overheard two coworkers chatting at the table. "Did you see how Rachel just sat there?" one said, laughter dripping from her words. "She's so out of the loop now." The other chuckled. "Yeah, I don't know what happened to her. She used to have such great ideas." Each word felt like a stab to her heart. Rachel turned away, feeling tears prick at her eyes. She had been the one who prided herself on her creativity and contributions, but now she felt like a shadow of her former self. As the weeks passed, Rachel began to retreat further into herself. She stopped participating in group discussions and avoided social gatherings. Each time she saw Marcus laughing and sharing ideas, it felt like a reminder of her failure to connect. She watched as he thrived, while she struggled to find her footing. Then one day, something unexpected happened. Rachel arrived at the office to find an unusual tension in the air. Whispers floated through the hallway as coworkers exchanged concerned glances. It was then that she learned about a project pitch Marcus had been working on, an opportunity that could significantly boost the company's image and revenue. But things took a sudden turn. In a meeting that morning, it was revealed that Marcus had faced unexpected backlash from a few higher-ups. They questioned his methods and expressed doubts about his leadership. Rachel's heart raced as she listened to the criticism, a mix of anger and frustration bubbling inside her. How could they not see what he's trying to do? She thought, gripping her pen tightly. With each negative comment thrown at Marcus, Rachel felt a surge of determination. This was her chance to stand up for him, to finally show that she could rise above her past mistakes. The thoughts raced through her mind. She couldn't remain silent any longer. Gathering her courage, Rachel decided to speak up. "Excuse me," she interrupted, surprising even herself. "I think we need to consider what Marcus is trying to achieve here. He has a vision, and we should support him instead of tearing it down." The room fell silent, and all eyes turned toward her. A wave of shock and disbelief washed over her, but she pressed on. "Marcus has put in so much effort and has shown incredible leadership. We need to rally behind him, not question his capabilities. If we want to move forward, we need to be a team." As Rachel spoke, she felt a sense of liberation. Each word was a release, a way to redeem herself. The initial surprise on everyone's faces began to shift. Some nodded in agreement, and even Marcus looked at her with wide eyes, a mixture of surprise and gratitude etched across his features. After a moment of hesitation, one of the senior team members spoke up. "You're right, Rachel. We've got to look at the bigger picture here. Marcus has brought fresh ideas, and we should give him a chance." Rachel felt a rush of hope as the conversation began to shift. Slowly, others started to chime in, echoing her sentiments. The tension in the room began to dissipate, replaced by a renewed sense of support for Marcus and his vision. As the meeting progressed, Rachel felt her confidence grow. For the first time in weeks, she was engaging with her colleagues, and the feelings of isolation began to fade. Marcus, now buoyed by the team's support, launched into a passionate defense of his project. highlighting its potential and the careful planning that had gone into it. Rachel sat back, watching as the tide turned. She realized that she was not just an observer anymore. She was an integral part of this team, and her voice mattered. It was a powerful reminder that judgment could be overcome, that redemption was possible through action and sincerity. As the meeting concluded, Rachel felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had faced her fears and taken a stand, but the journey was far from over. She knew she had to continue building trust with her colleagues and, more importantly, with herself. The path ahead was filled with challenges, but she was ready to face them. Marcus caught her eye as everyone filed out of the room, and a smile broke across his face. "Thank you for speaking up, Rachel. That really meant a lot." Rachel felt a warmth spread through her chest. This was the turning point she had been waiting for, a chance to not only mend her past mistakes, but also to grow alongside Marcus and the team. As she left the conference room, a renewed sense of purpose filled her. She was no longer defined by her previous judgments. She was ready to embrace the future. Days rolled into weeks, and the impact of Rachel's bold move in the meeting echoed throughout the office. The air was charged with a fresh sense of camaraderie, and Rachel could feel a shift within herself. It was as if she had shed a heavy cloak of shame and judgment. The office that once felt stifling and isolating began to transform into a space of possibility. Yet, while the atmosphere lightened, Rachel's journey was just beginning. She was determined to make amends, not just to Marcus, but to herself as well. The realization dawned upon her. Redemption wasn't merely about apologizing or facing the consequences. It was about genuine change and growth, and she needed to put in the work. With this new mindset, Rachel began to actively participate in team projects. She volunteered for brainstorming sessions and offered her insights freely. Her contributions were met with enthusiasm, and slowly her colleagues began to see her in a new light. Conversations that had once felt distant became lively exchanges filled with ideas. It was exhilarating, but Rachel was mindful of her past missteps. She didn't want to rush into anything without fully understanding her colleagues and their perspectives. One afternoon, while working on a collaborative project, Rachel found herself sitting next to Marcus at a conference table. She had always admired his confidence and vision, but never truly engaged with him on a personal level. Sensing an opportunity to connect, Rachel decided to break the ice. "Hey Marcus, can you tell me more about your approach to the project? I'd love to understand your thought process." Marcus looked up, surprised yet pleased. "Of course, Rachel. I've been really inspired by our customer feedback. It's all about creating something that resonates with them. We need to innovate while staying true to our core values." As he spoke, Rachel found herself hanging on his every word. There was a passion in his voice that ignited a fire within her. In that moment, she realized how much she had underestimated him, and how much she had missed out on by judging him too quickly. Days turned into weeks, and Rachel found herself looking forward to these collaborative sessions with Marcus. They began to develop a rhythm, bouncing ideas off each other and sparking creativity that flowed like an electric current. It was as if they were writing a new story together, one where both of their strengths shined. But as their partnership blossomed, Rachel couldn't ignore the flicker of doubt that sometimes crept in. Would her past mistakes haunt her forever? Would she always be the woman who laughed at Marcus? Each time the thought crossed her mind, she felt a twinge of anxiety. Yet every time she saw Marcus work tirelessly to bring the team together, she was reminded of the importance of moving forward. One day, during a lunch break, Rachel sat with a small group of colleagues. They were discussing their weekend plans when someone casually brought up the topic of Marcus and his recent project successes. "It's impressive how he turned things around, isn't it?" one colleague remarked, glancing at Rachel. "He really knows how to connect with people." The compliment struck Rachel like a bolt of lightning. She felt a mix of pride for Marcus and guilt for her past actions. Swallowing hard, she decided it was time to share her journey with the group. "You know, I haven't always been the biggest fan of Marcus," she admitted, her voice steady. "I judged him too quickly, and it's something I regret. Watching him work and seeing his impact on the team has changed my perspective completely." The table fell silent, and all eyes turned to her. Rachel's heart raced, but she pressed on. "I've learned that we all have our stories and struggles. It's crucial to give each other the benefit of the doubt." One of her colleagues chimed in. "That's a brave thing to say, Rachel. It's easy to get caught up in assumptions." The group nodded in agreement, and the conversation shifted to the importance of empathy in the workplace. In that moment, Rachel felt a weight lift. She realized that her vulnerability was a stepping stone toward redemption. It wasn't just about her relationship with Marcus. It was about fostering a culture of understanding and acceptance within the entire team. As the months passed, the once fractured relationships in the office transformed into strong bonds built on mutual respect and trust. Rachel found herself often engaging with her colleagues, learning their stories, and recognizing their strengths. The more she understood them, the more her own insecurities faded. Then came the day of the big presentation, a culmination of months of hard work from the entire team. The stakes were high, and everyone felt the pressure. Rachel stood backstage, watching as Marcus prepared to present their vision to the company's executives. She could see the determination in his eyes, the way he was channeling his energy into his words. As he took the stage, Rachel felt a wave of pride wash over her. He spoke with conviction, outlining their innovative plans and how they had integrated feedback from various departments. The executives leaned forward, engaged and interested. But halfway through the presentation, disaster struck. One of the executives posed a challenging question that threw Marcus off balance. "What if this strategy fails? What's your backup plan?" For a moment, Rachel saw uncertainty flash across Marcus's face. But then she noticed something remarkable. Instead of retreating, Marcus took a deep breath and faced the challenge head-on. "That's a valid concern, and I appreciate you bringing it up. While we've planned extensively, I believe flexibility is key. We're prepared to pivot if necessary and adapt our approach based on real-time data." His words were met with a murmur of approval from the audience, and Rachel felt her heart swell with admiration. It was a moment of clarity. Marcus had grown as a leader, and she had been lucky enough to witness it firsthand. As the presentation concluded, the room erupted in applause. Rachel couldn't contain her excitement and felt a sense of accomplishment wash over her. They had done it together. Later that evening, as the team celebrated their success at a nearby restaurant, Rachel caught Marcus's eye across the room. He was surrounded by colleagues, basking in the praise and attention. She felt a surge of gratitude, knowing that her journey to redemption was intertwined with his growth. Gathering her courage, she approached him. "Marcus, you were amazing up there. I'm so proud of what we achieved." He smiled, his eyes bright with sincerity. "Thank you, Rachel. I couldn't have done it without you. Your support and input made a real difference." As the night wore on, Rachel felt a sense of fulfillment. She realized that redemption wasn't just about forgiving herself. It was about recognizing the potential in others and lifting them up. It was about building a community that thrived on collaboration, empathy, and growth. But even as the celebrations continued, Rachel knew that the journey ahead would still have its challenges. There would be moments of doubt and missteps, but now she had the tools to face them. She understood the value of vulnerability, the importance of honesty, and the power of support. Marcus had never imagined that his life would take such a turn. Just months ago, he was the target of disdain, facing judgment and ridicule from a colleague who didn't know him at all. But now, he found himself standing at the helm of a new project, tasked with steering a team toward success. The irony of his position was not lost on him. He was now in a place where he could shape narratives, foster understanding, and ultimately, change lives. But leadership was not just about being in charge. It was about influence, connection, and inspiring others. Marcus knew this all too well, having experienced firsthand the detrimental effects of ignorance and prejudice. The memory of that humiliating moment when Rachel laughed at him haunted him still. It was a reminder of how quickly assumptions could cloud judgment. Determined to create an environment where everyone felt valued, Marcus set out to redefine leadership in his own way. As he gathered his team for the first project meeting, he felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Let's start with introductions," he said, looking around the room at the faces before him. "I want to hear your stories, who you are, and what drives you. We're in this together, and everyone's voice matters." The team looked at him, some surprised by his request. But slowly, one by one, they began to share. Each person's story was unique, filled with struggles, victories. As the meeting continued, Marcus guided the conversation toward the project goals. "We all have different strengths. Let's use that to our advantage. What are your ideas? How can we leverage our skills to create something amazing?" The team brainstormed passionately, tossing ideas back and forth like a game of catch. With every suggestion, the atmosphere became charged with enthusiasm. But amid the excitement, Rachel wrestled with her own inner turmoil. She knew she needed to confront her past behavior, yet the fear of vulnerability gripped her. After the meeting, Marcus noticed Rachel lingering behind. He approached her, sensing her discomfort. "Hey, Rachel. I noticed you were quiet in there. I value your insights. What's on your mind?" She took a deep breath, her heart racing. "Marcus, I owe you an apology. I've been thinking about how I treated you before, and I realize now how wrong I was. You deserve respect and recognition for your hard work." Marcus felt a surge of appreciation, but also a hint of hesitation. "Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. But I want you to know that it's not just about me. We all have moments we're not proud of. It's how we choose to learn from them that truly matters." Rachel nodded, a weight lifting from her shoulders. "I want to learn. I want to grow and contribute positively to the team." As they spoke, Marcus's understanding deepened. Leadership wasn't just about guiding others. It was also about nurturing relationships, fostering growth, and creating a culture of openness. The conversations became a building block for trust, allowing Rachel and others to see him as a leader who genuinely cared. Days turned into weeks, and Marcus embraced his role as a leader with renewed vigor. He held regular check-ins with his team, encouraging feedback and addressing any concerns. These sessions were filled with honest discussions about challenges and triumphs. The team began to bond, and camaraderie flourished. However, just as things began to settle, the weight of external pressures loomed over the team. They were tasked with presenting their project to upper management, a moment that would determine the future of their work. The looming deadline created an undercurrent of anxiety. During a particularly tense meeting, Marcus noticed his team growing restless. Ideas that had flowed so freely before now felt stifled. People exchanged worried glances, and the air thickened with uncertainty. Marcus could sense that they needed a morale boost. "Let's take a moment," he suggested, raising his hands for quiet. "I know the pressure is on, but remember why we started this project. We're here because of our passion and creativity. Let's refocus. What are we excited about? What gets our adrenaline pumping?" Slowly, the room began to lighten as team members shared their enthusiasm for the project. They laughed and reconnected, their spirits lifted. Marcus watched with satisfaction, realizing that moments like these were essential for nurturing a healthy team dynamic. He learned that leadership wasn't just about getting results. It was about cultivating a supportive environment where everyone could thrive. As the presentation day approached, Marcus organized a practice run. They gathered in the conference room, and he encouraged each member to present their part. As they rehearsed, he offered constructive feedback, helping them polish their delivery. The sense of unity strengthened as they supported one another, correcting mistakes and celebrating small victories. But just when they thought they were ready, an unexpected setback occurred. One of the key presenters, feeling the weight of the impending deadline, fell ill. The team felt a collective panic rise. They were one person short, and the presentation felt like it was hanging by a thread. Marcus stepped in, his heart racing. "All right, we can do this. We've practiced. Let's not let one setback define us. Who can step up to take their place? Silence filled the room as everyone exchanged nervous glances. Finally, Rachel raised her hand. I'll do it. I can cover their part. Surprise swept through the group. Rachel had been hesitant to take the spotlight before, but something had changed within her. She was ready to take the leap. With Marcus's encouragement, Rachel stepped forward. I've been working closely with them on this section. I know the material. I can do this. The team rallied around her, providing support and reassurance. Marcus felt a surge of pride as he watched Rachel transform before his eyes. It was a defining moment, showcasing how leadership can inspire individuals to rise to challenges they never thought they could overcome. On the day of the presentation, the tension in the conference room was palpable. The executives sat in front of them, eyes sharp and expectant. As Marcus began, he felt a sense of confidence wash over him. He introduced the team. Then it was Rachel's turn. As she stepped forward, her heart pounded, but she could feel the support of her teammates behind her. She spoke passionately, articulating the project's goals and the innovative solutions they had crafted. The executives listened attentively, and Marcus felt a wave of relief wash over him as he witnessed Rachel shine. She captivated the room, her words flowing effortlessly. With each slide, the audience's interest deepened, and Marcus could see nods of approval. As Rachel concluded her presentation, the room erupted in applause. The team had done it together, and Marcus couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. He realized that true leadership was not just about directing. It was about empowering others to find their voices and shine. Later, as the executives deliberated, the team huddled together, excitement buzzing in the air. Marcus looked at each of them, seeing the joy and anticipation in their eyes. They had overcome adversity, learned from each other, and grown as individuals. The lingering shadows of judgment and prejudice still hung over the office, a ghost of Rachel's past behavior towards Marcus. While Rachel had taken steps to make amends, the tension was palpable. Forgiveness is a powerful tool, but it doesn't always come easy. As Marcus navigated this complicated landscape, he found himself questioning everything he thought he knew about people and their capacity to change. One day, while Marcus sat in his office reviewing reports, he heard a soft knock on the door. It was Rachel, looking anxious. Her hands fidgeted at her sides, and her eyes darted around the room. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of course," he replied, gesturing for her to sit. As she settled into the chair opposite him, Marcus could sense her tension. It was clear that this was not just a casual conversation. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened before," Rachel began, her voice shaking slightly. "I know I was wrong to laugh at you and judge you without knowing you. It was cruel, and I can't shake the feeling of shame. I want to ask for your forgiveness." Marcus paused, taken aback. It was one thing to say sorry, but it was another to truly feel remorse. He had watched Rachel change over the past weeks, but could he really trust that she had transformed? Forgiveness was not a simple act. It was a complex journey, one that required vulnerability from both parties. "Rachel, I appreciate your honesty," he finally said. "But forgiveness isn't just a word. It's a process, and it takes time. I still remember how it felt when you laughed at me. It hurt deeply." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I know. I understand that now. I can't change what happened, but I want to be better. I want to earn your trust back. Please give me a chance." Marcus felt a surge of empathy. He understood her struggle. He had faced his own demons when it came to trusting others. "Let's take it one step at a time," he suggested, his voice steady. "I'm willing to work with you, but it'll take more than words. Actions speak louder." Over the next few weeks, Rachel committed herself to proving her sincerity. She immersed herself in her work, volunteering to take on challenging tasks and support her colleagues. Marcus watched closely, observing her progress. It was inspiring to see her transform, but the question remained, Would her efforts be enough to mend the rift between them? One day, during a team-building exercise, Marcus decided to test the waters. He divided the team into pairs and assigned them a task: to share a personal story that had shaped their lives. He hoped it would deepen their connections and foster a sense of understanding. As the stories unfolded, Rachel was paired with a newcomer named Jake. She shared her experience of overcoming challenges in her life and how her past behavior had stemmed from her insecurities. Jake listened intently, nodding in support. Then it was his turn to share. "I used to struggle with confidence too," Jake admitted. "There was a time when I doubted my abilities, and it led me to make some poor choices." His honesty encouraged others to open up, creating an atmosphere of vulnerability that felt like a breath of fresh air. As the exercise continued, Marcus observed the emotional transformations taking place within the team. Rachel's courage to share her flaws was met with compassion, and it seemed to inspire others to be authentic. They were all human, flawed, and seeking connection. After the exercise concluded, Marcus gathered the team to reflect on the experience. "I want to thank everyone for sharing," he said, his voice filled with warmth. "It takes bravery to open up, and I believe this will only strengthen our team moving forward." Rachel seized the moment to express her gratitude. "I want to say thank you for giving me a chance to grow and for supporting me. I know I've made mistakes." The team applauded, and for the first time, Marcus saw a glimmer of hope in Rachel's eyes. However, a part of him remained cautious. Trust is hard to rebuild, and he wondered how long it would take before he could fully forgive her. As the weeks turned into months, Rachel continued her efforts to prove herself. She would often stay late to help colleagues, organize team outings, and offer a listening ear when others faced difficulties. Slowly, her consistent actions began to chip away at Marcus's guarded heart. One afternoon, as Marcus walked into the office, he noticed a group gathered around the coffee machine, laughing and sharing stories. To his surprise, Rachel was at the center of it, her infectious laughter drawing everyone in. In that moment, he realized how much had changed. The judgment that had once clouded their interactions had lifted. Marcus couldn't help but smile as he witnessed the transformation not only in Rachel but in the entire team. Forgiveness was no longer a distant thought. It was becoming a tangible reality. But just as things seemed to be heading in the right direction, an unexpected challenge arose. A major client was threatening to pull out of a project, citing poor communication and lack of confidence in the team. The atmosphere grew tense as deadlines loomed, and pressure mounted. During a meeting, Marcus sensed the team's anxiety. He could feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "We need to address this head-on," he said firmly. "Let's brainstorm solutions together. How can we regain the client's trust?" Rachel spoke up, her voice steady. "I can reach out to the client personally. I've worked with them before, and I believe I can help turn this around." Marcus hesitated. Was he ready to entrust her with such a significant responsibility? Doubt crept in, but he could also see the determination in her eyes. He took a deep breath, realizing this was a pivotal moment for both of them. "All right, Rachel. I trust you to handle this. But remember, communication is key." As Rachel prepared for her call with the client, Marcus felt a mix of pride and apprehension. He gathered the team and encouraged them to support her. They worked together, rehearsing what she would say and addressing potential concerns. It was a team effort, and Marcus was reminded of how far they had come. The day of the call arrived, and Rachel sat at her desk, her heart racing. With the team gathered around her, she dialed the client's number. The line rang, and as she waited, Marcus could feel the tension in the air. When the client answered, Rachel introduced herself and got straight to the point. "I understand that there have been issues with communication, and I want to address your concerns. I'm here to listen and find a solution that works for both of us." The conversation unfolded, and as Rachel spoke, Marcus watched her confidence grow. She listened actively, acknowledging the client's frustrations and offering actionable solutions. The atmosphere shifted from one of anxiety to one of hope. Finally, After a lengthy discussion, Rachel concluded the call. "Thank you for your understanding. I assure you that we will make the necessary improvements. I appreciate your patience." As she hung up, the room erupted into applause. The client had agreed to stay on, and Rachel's efforts had saved the project. Marcus felt a swell of admiration for her. She had risen to the occasion and demonstrated true leadership. Yet, as he congratulated her, a flicker of doubt remained in the back of his mind. Could he truly let go of the past? The memory of Rachel's initial judgment lingered like a shadow, a reminder that trust was a fragile thing. Over the next few weeks, Marcus found himself wrestling with these feelings. Rachel's actions had earned her a place on the team, yet he couldn't shake the pain of her earlier behavior. He knew he needed to confront his own fears about forgiveness. One evening, as he left the office, Marcus spotted Rachel sitting at her desk, reviewing documents. "Hey, can we talk for a minute?" he asked, his voice softer than usual. "Of course," she replied, her eyes wide with curiosity. They moved to a quiet corner, and Marcus took a deep breath. "I've been thinking a lot about what it means to forgive. You've worked hard to earn my trust, and I appreciate everything you've done. But I still feel that weight from before." Rachel nodded, her expression serious. "I understand, Marcus. I've been working on forgiving myself too. It's a process, isn't it?" "It is," he replied, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. "I want to let go of the past, but it's not easy. I need time." "Take all the time you need," Rachel assured him. "I'll be here, ready to prove that I've changed." As they talked, Marcus realized that forgiveness was not just about forgetting. It was about understanding, growth, and allowing space for healing. He felt hopeful for the future, not just for himself, but for Rachel as well. In the weeks that followed, the team flourished. They celebrated milestones together, fostering a culture of respect and collaboration. Rachel continued to shine, her confidence bolstered by the trust the team placed in her. But for Marcus, the concept of redemption can seem like a far-off dream, especially when betrayal or hurt has left deep scars. For Rachel, the journey had only just begun. Every day, she grappled with her past actions, trying to reconcile the person she had been with the person she was striving to become. One particular evening, after a long day at work, Rachel decided to take a stroll in the park nearby. The air was cool, and the streets were quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. It was a place she often visited to clear her mind and gather her thoughts. As she walked, memories of her past flooded her mind, memories filled with laughter, pain, and regret. Just a few months ago, Rachel remembered sitting in the break room, surrounded by colleagues. The atmosphere had been lighthearted until Marcus entered. The laughter faded, and she remembered the ugly grin on her face as she whispered a mocking remark to a friend about his presentation. It had felt like a harmless joke at the time, but seeing the hurt in Marcus's eyes had struck her like a bolt of lightning. Regret is a heavy burden to carry. As Rachel continued her walk, she thought about how the guilt had consumed her. It wasn't just about the moment of mockery. It was about the realization that she had contributed to a toxic environment. But could she really change? Could she find redemption? Days turned into weeks, and Rachel's resolve to become a better person strengthened. One afternoon, she gathered her courage and sought out Marcus. He was sitting at his desk, deep in thought, the dim light of the computer screen illuminating his features. "Marcus, do you have a moment?" Rachel asked, her heart pounding in her chest. He looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Sure, what's up?" "I wanted to talk to you about, well, about everything," she stammered, feeling vulnerable. Marcus nodded, signaling her to continue. "I've been thinking a lot about redemption lately. I know I messed up in the past, and I want to make things right. I realize now that my behavior wasn't just wrong, it was damaging." A tense silence filled the room as Marcus processed her words. "It's good that you recognize that, Rachel. But redemption isn't just about acknowledgement. It's about action. What are you willing to do to show that you've changed?" Rachel took a deep breath, her determination shining through. "I want to start a team-building workshop. I think it could help everyone grow together and foster a more supportive environment. I want to create a space where we can all be vulnerable and honest." Marcus raised an eyebrow, intrigued but skeptical. "That sounds ambitious. Are you ready to lead it?" "Yes," she replied firmly. "I believe I can do this. It's time for me to step up and contribute positively. I owe it to you and the team." Marcus felt a flicker of hope. It was a small step, but it was a step nonetheless. As Rachel left his office, he couldn't help but wonder if she was genuinely ready to change, or if this was just another fleeting moment of clarity. Weeks passed, and the day of the workshop finally arrived. The conference room was buzzing with energy as team members filed in. Some were excited, others skeptical, and a few were even anxious. Rachel stood at the front, her heart racing. She had prepared for this moment, but the weight of her past still felt heavy on her shoulders. "Welcome, everyone," she began, her voice shaky but clear. "Today, we're here to build connections and understand each other better. I want to create a safe space where we can share our stories and learn from one another." As Rachel spoke, she could feel the room's tension ease. The team was beginning to warm up to her, but she knew that trust was not easily won. They needed to see her genuine desire to change. The first activity involved pairs sharing a personal story. As Rachel observed the connections forming, she felt a sense of hope. When it was her turn to share, she took a deep breath. "I want to tell you about a mistake I made not long ago," she said, her voice steadying. "I hurt someone's feelings without thinking, and it was wrong. I've been on a journey to understand the impact of my actions, and I hope that by sharing this, you can see that I am committed to changing." Silence enveloped the room. Rachel's vulnerability hung in the air like a fragile thread. Slowly, one by one, her colleagues began to open up. By the end of the session, Rachel felt a shift in the atmosphere. She had created a space for connection, and the team was coming together in a way she had never imagined. Laughter and tears mingled as they shared their experiences, and for the first time, Rachel felt like she was part of something larger. But as the workshop concluded, the weight of her past still lingered. Would this moment be enough to secure her redemption? The doubt gnawed at her, and she knew she needed to continue proving herself. In the following weeks, Rachel took on additional responsibilities, volunteering to lead projects and support her colleagues. She worked hard to be a team player, but there were still whispers behind her back, reminders of her past behavior. The skepticism lingered, and Marcus, while impressed with her efforts, still had his guard up. One afternoon, Rachel overheard two coworkers discussing her. "I don't trust her," one said. "She's just putting on a show. I doubt she's really changed." Those words pierced Rachel's heart like arrows. She had poured her soul into proving herself, yet doubt still shadowed her. Determined not to let it break her, she continued pushing forward, reminding herself that redemption was a journey, not a destination. Then came a pivotal moment. The company faced a critical deadline for a major project, and tensions were high. Marcus called an emergency meeting, and the pressure in the room was palpable. Ideas flew around like confetti, but chaos reigned. Frustration bubbled over, and voices began to rise. Rachel watched as Marcus struggled to regain control. She could sense his stress, and for a moment, she hesitated. But then something clicked within her. She stood up, her voice cutting through the noise. "Everyone, let's take a step back. We're all feeling the pressure, but we can't let that divide us. Let's regroup and come up with a solid plan together." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Rachel, surprise etched on their faces, but she could see something change. Some started to nod in agreement. "Let's break into smaller groups and focus on our strengths," she continued, her confidence growing. "If we work together, we can tackle this project and meet the deadline." With a deep breath, she organized the team into groups, assigning tasks based on their strengths. As they collaborated, Rachel felt a surge of hope. The atmosphere shifted from chaos to cohesion, and for the first time, She saw her colleagues looking at her not as the person who had hurt them, but as a leader who was willing to step up. As the deadline approached, the team worked tirelessly. Rachel found herself leading discussions, encouraging her colleagues, and ensuring everyone was heard. Slowly, the project began to take shape, and with it, so did Rachel's reputation. When the day of the presentation arrived, the room was filled with anticipation. Rachel stood at the front, ready to present alongside Marcus. The project had turned into a success, and they were about to showcase their hard work. As they spoke, Rachel felt the shift. The audience's attention was focused, their expressions changing from skepticism to admiration. When they finished, the applause was deafening. In that moment, Rachel felt a rush of emotions. She had faced her past, acknowledged her mistakes, and fought for redemption. And now, it seemed she was finally being recognized for her efforts. However, the journey was far from over. As they left the room, Rachel caught Marcus's eye. There was something different in his expression, a glimmer of pride perhaps, but just as quickly it vanished, replaced by a familiar wall. "Great job today, Rachel," he said, his voice steady but his gaze distant. "Thank you, Marcus. I couldn't have done it without the team," she replied, hoping to draw him closer. But Marcus nodded, a subtle shift in his demeanor. "We still have a long way to go. Let's keep working hard."